In today's video, we're going to give you some examples of how blue notes are used in bluegrass. We'll give these examples on the mandolin, the banjo, and the guitar, but of course it would apply to all the other instruments and the singing. Just as important, we'll show you where not to add blue notes to keep your sound right. As the name implies, blue notes are simply notes that make things sound bluesy. The most common blue notes that you'll hear in bluegrass are the flatted third and flatted seventh, meaning if you can play your major scale, we'll go with the key of G. So when I count up 1, 2, 3 to flat it, you lower it. So we'll have a B flat instead of a B. And as we continue on, there's our 7. So when we lower the F sharp, we get F natural. So when you include a B flat and an F against your G chord, you've added some blues to your playing. We can give you a little background as to where these notes came from. The first song ever published with the word blues in the title was the song St. Louis Blues, written by W.C. Handy. The theme for that song went something like this, and it was in the key of G. And so this B flat note, there's the blue note. And then it goes to a C chord. The B flat now becomes the 7th of the C chord, so flatted third, flatted 7th. The first generation bluegrass players such as Bill Monroe, Earl Scruggs, Lester Flatt, Ralph Stanley, they all grew up in rural America where there was plenty of blues to be heard. So they started infusing that in their playing. One of the most common places where you hear it on the guitar is the famous Lester Flatt G run. So I'm rolling my sweet baby's arm. Flatted third, B flat. Bill Monroe would also tag his solos, including blue notes. Right there's the B flat, and just like in the Lester Flatt run, it's immediately followed by the natural B. So flatted third and raised up, that's very characteristic in bluegrass as to how you use that flatted third. So he might be coming off the end of his solo with his D lick. On the banjo, the B flat note shows up on string 3, fret 3 in Earl Scruggs' famous tag lick. He slides from fret 2 to 3. When he hits the 3, there's your flatted third, B flat. Let's next show you how an artist might use some blue notes to fancy up their playing. The song Beaumont Rag was around a long time before Doc Watson got a hold of it. Bob Wills recorded it back in the 1930s, and it sounded something like this, pretty basic. And then Doc got a hold of it, and right away you can hear how the blue notes got infused into this. The song is in the key of C, but it starts on a G7 chord. So you're actually playing the flatted 7th of the G to begin the song. And then right here, you're hitting the flatted third, the B flat against the B. And then he comes up and hits an E flat against the E. Well, the chord is now changed to C. So you're now playing the flatted third against the C chord. Sometimes a blue note becomes a famous part of a melody even when it wasn't on the original recording. One such tune is the tune Gold Rush, Bill Monroe's song with Byron Berline on the fiddle. The original went something like this. But you often hear it with this flatted seventh note added, something like this. Sometimes a song has so many blue notes that people mistakenly think it's in a minor key. Ralph Stanley's song Clinch Mountain Backstep is in the key of A, not the key of A minor, although all the melody notes can be found in an A minor pentatonic blues scale, which really just means that it contains the flatted third, flatted seventh. So he built his entire melody around that. But what the background players should be doing is not play a full major chord, but figure out where the third of your chord is and try to double up either a root or a fifth. And that will be the best sound for rhythm behind his melody. You can add blue notes to many popular fiddle tunes to give yourself a variation. The ending to the end of Billy in the Low Ground, you have a lick that goes like this. But you could just as easily, that was all major scale, you could just as easily add you're in the key of C, I went up and got that E flat against the E note. Wrap up my section of Billy in the Low Ground with that. As you attempt to add blue notes to your fiddle tunes, ask yourself if the notes sound appropriate. Give you an example. A beautiful song, St. Anne's Reel. So we want to try and put a blue note in that. We're in the key of D, here's my F sharp, here's my F natural, the flatted third. To my ear, that just says, whoops, no, we've gotten away from the tune. So be careful about that. Just put them in where appropriate and where it adds to the feel. The songs where adding blue notes isn't going to work are the ones where the melody is predominantly just chord arpeggios, such as the song Liberty. So each of those parts, this is part of a D chord. This is part of a G chord. If you start adding other notes, you're taking the listener away from the proper chord. You get the idea. Some songs have a flatted seventh melody note to indicate the chord change is about to happen. There's the F natural note against the G chord, creates a G7 which wants to go to C. And in that very same song, which is Shuckin' the Corn, when he goes to the B part, he actually changes the first chord to start on G7. So therefore, he acknowledges that in his melody by also playing the flatted seventh note. So of course, when we're at the end of the line here and we want to close out our song, we want to play our famous shaven haircut ending. But sometimes it's appropriate to leave it hanging with a blue note. So we hope you've enjoyed our tour of blue notes, and we'll leave you with this.